course, I'm like a little kid.
Tech Tips are brought to you by S&S, proven performance for the power sports industry.
Quite honestly, probably the greatest single promotion that any company, in my recollection of the motorcycle industry, probably the greatest promotion that's ever been pulled off.
Well, because they got people from all over the world, right, to do these bikes. I mean, I can get my old Cool Kid covers out of here because I know that these guys just want to steal them anyway. And maybe I could pull this thing out of here. There's one laying under that motor thing, I realize now. But there's the deal, right? Look at all these builders, right? I mean, it was definitely the who's who, you know, and a lot of these guys aren't here anymore. You know, Skeeter Todd, Jerry Covington just passed. That's a bummer, right? But there's a lot of great stuff on here.
Chris Chrome.
Yeah.
Arlen Ness.
June 27th to the 29th, 2008. I was really honored to be a part of this thing. And I mean, they had every magazine there, and you can attest to this, Chris. I mean, didn't they do some sort of raffle for you guys to even get a chance to take the pictures?
To feature them, yeah. We actually all got on a call and went through this whole process of taking turns of who got the pick. It was like an NFL draft day.
Nice.
Because there were 50 bikes, but they were 50 of the greatest bikes. And you know, really highlighting the history of a company like S&S, you had guys like Donnie Luce who took a shovel head and went back to the day of the 70s style dragster, and you know, everybody was looking for that way to run off into a corner and stand out in a timeline of a company that just, I mean, it spanned everything that's been custom motorcycles in this industry through our lifetime.
Yeah, no, there's not a bigger name. I mean, you say Harley-Davidson, you say S&S.
Yeah.
You know, it's a thing, right? And so they decided to bring it back. You guys will see this long after we've already debuted these, because this, like everything else S&S did back in the day anyway, it was top secret. It was not a social media blast thing. This thing wasn't a social media thing. It was, we all kind of had to keep it on the down low and unveil our bikes at the 50th in La Crosse. 50 builders from around the world, right? And then the 50 guys got to pick one. And so now they've decided to kick it off by doing 6 motors, 6 builds, culminating in Daytona, March 2025, maybe early February, whenever we got to deliver them there. Late February, I guess. I don't know. I'm so confused right now.
All 6 builders are dealing with 3 of their vintage motor families.
Yeah.
So 2 knuckle guys, 2 pan guys, 2 shovel guys. But I think the hardest thing about this, like I'm so stoked. I can't wait to get into this box because, you know, I'm a chopper kid. I've been cobbling together old stuff for long as I've been doing this. What's inside of here,
makes you happy.
It's going to be great. But the hardest thing is going to be when we get these motorcycles done. They're going on a truck and going home with S&S and then going on tour.
You don't see it for a year.
Dude.
Is that killing you?
It is. It is. Like, I actually want to go to where they're going to be with them so that I can at least ride it a little bit.
Drool on it a little bit. Well, the funny thing about this whole deal is, right, I'm stoked to even be a part of this because I'm not known as a vintage guy. I'm the Evolution bagger on into twin cams and up guy, right? And I'm the plastic guy. I'm the windshield guy. Like, nobody thinks about me building old Cool Kid motors.
Which is funny because I guess it just goes to show my age, right? That, like, I've been around this for so long because, you know, I know Brian Clock. Like, I wasn't surprised when you pulled the chopper out, the chopper fence throwdown. You know, I remember the Root Buell and Cherry Bomb and, like, you know, all the stuff that you did throughout the history of this thing. So,
but then I became the windshield guy.
I know.
I know. He's so disappointed. You see that? That's what everybody says. It's my wife says even. She's like, Brian, you can't make anything cooler than that. So my Panhead, I can't believe we get to do both these in the building. Right. We're the Panhead guys on this thing. And this is super fun because, so first, you know, time in our lives, Chris and I have actually got to lock horns for positive instead of lock horns for just arguing about what our idiosyncrasies were in motorcycling in the industry or politics or anything. So this is fun, okay?
He told me once upon a time that I was ruining the motorcycle industry, just for the record.
I said that. I said that. I said that. We'll talk about that later. It's a whole nother show, okay? So for me, this is my dad, okay? In front of his little gas station in Emory, South Dakota. This is his 1961 Panhead. He rode this to Sturgis 1 month before I was born in 1966. Okay, so from Emory, South Dakota, population 350, 14 kids in my class. I get to build a Panhead for one of the most iconic brands in the world, S&S. Okay, and my dad and I never really agreed. My dad's bike is primarily stock here. That's the way he liked them. Clean, shiny, and stock with lots of chrome. Okay, I'm gonna go lots of chrome, Dad. You can't get a white wall in a 19 very easily, so I'm out on that, Dad. Probably not doing these bags. Definitely not doing these big fenders or that buddy seat. I'm gonna do these tanks, and I'm gonna do that red stripe because I hear that that's a tough thing. So this bike was all white with red stripes, and I have a friend who has a set of actual original Panhead tanks from that era, Matt Olson in Aberdeen, South Dakota, said you can use these to find the exact stripe because I guess they get messed up. I don't know that much about them.
And that's hen's teeth, even to be able to have a pair of those in your hands to work off of. Like that's something.
So I'm gonna go white, Dad. I'm gonna go hot rod. It's just what I got to do. But I'm gonna do a swing arm. Okay, I got this gnarly looking little frame right here. Okay. Somebody thought they were Chopper Cool Kid, so they just took some square bar stock and some chicken welds and stuck this thing together. And I'm not sure exactly if they were trying to mold with a grinder.
There's so much to talk about here.
It's not pretty.
There's so much to talk about here. This is my favorite part of this. Underneath here is actually a stock neck casting, if you can believe that or not. My favorite part of this is after they got these giant plates on here, once they got the rake and everything they wanted, they realized that the tanks didn't fit. So they heated the side of this thing up, and with probably a giant hammer, just beat the dog shit out of the sides of it until the tanks would fit.
But it is the squarest, trickiest thing I could find. You know, it's ugly. $300. Okay.
But here's the best thing that you got in this, and this was worth the $300 in itself.
Right.
So this is the difference between a shovel head frame and a Panhead frame. And you'll see a lot of people doing this now with Jeff Cochran makes a kit where he does a drop seat Panhead frame horns on his shovel head frames. And this is why, because you get nearly 3 inches of drop by the time you would put this on. Right where those frame horns come up like that, it gives this stance a completely different look. So the fact that you scored all of this is intact and great, it's worth the $300.
Keeps all this line, keeps all that stuff. We've got the right swing arm. So that said, between that, this beautiful Panhead motor, I think I'm ready to go.
Dude, the roots of this right here, like this is what everybody out there that's following me and from the whole chopper side of the world that don't understand, that don't have an appreciation of where a lot of us guys come from. When you see Brian Clock and he's out doing the windshield thing, look at the roots right there, man.
No, he didn't mean the hair roots. He didn't mean like my dad's flat top. I still ain't got no hair. Sorry, Dad.
But that's super badass. You can't deny where this comes from. That's good stock. I love the fact that you said the thing about that he wanted nothing but stock, and you could never keep anything stock, and that was like a thing for you guys.
It was. And finally, when he finally let go, I built him like the Marquee Glide. I remember one of them. Ruby slippers, every one of his baggers that I made full custom. I think the reason he didn't make them custom is because I sold them right away.
Yeah.
Every time I go to a show, in the last one I tried to keep fairly stock and just painted some parts to match stock. A guy from Australia came up to me in Daytona. He goes, "I got to buy this bike, son. I want to ride it from here to California." I said, "It's not for sale. It's my dad's. He hasn't even really ridden it. We just came out of winter," and he's like, "No, I need it." And he talked me out of it. Oh. So he took my dad's brand new stock appearing bike and took off. So that's why my dad's like, "Just leave it. Leave it as is. Because nobody will buy it. Nobody even wants it. They can go get one off the floor."
Well, and that's the cool thing. So what
are you doing?
What Brian told me that he's doing, though, real quick, I just want to expand on that, is his dad would have never let him cut this bike apart.
No way.
So this is what's going to go on here. If he would have had the opportunity to customize that motorcycle, That's what Brian's building. I'm so stoked about that. I cannot wait to see this bike.
And what's happening over here on this sawhorse?
So I guess it was about 10 years ago. I had an opportunity. I walked into a swap meet and I saw a bike sitting there, a whole Panhead that was a project. It was in a rolling chassis, and it said, a little sign said, plus 5 boxes of parts. And I was like, I walked past it, and Heather's with me, and we walked up and down a couple hours, and she said, you know, we're going to go back and buy that bike, right? And I was like, yeah, we're not buying a bike today. I said, I'm not buying a bike. I'm not, you know, I don't even know what it is. And she said, well, let's go back and look at it. So we went through the boxes of parts, and here the old guy that was doing this would take something off if it was the starter or whatever parts he was working on, the shifting linkage and everything. He would take it apart. If it was supposed to be painted, it got painted. If it was supposed to be Parkerized or cadmium plated, he would do all that, and he would wrap it back up and put it in a box. And one part at a time, he was resurrecting this thing. So all of those 5 boxes of parts were there with it. And it had, I mean, you can see it's been partially chopped. Like somebody did one of the original chop jobs. You know, they stuck 3-inch slugs in the down tubes, and they cut the sidecar loops off. But mostly when you look at that frame, it's still there and it's still good. So just
at this point, you might want to just say, God bless Heather.
Yes.
So a lot of times throughout this, you'll see Heather pop in and out. You know, sometimes I actually get her to put hands on. It seems like the last time we were working on a chopper together, I accidentally ran a grinder up her arm, and she has quite forgiven me from it. But she is the epitome of a biker's old lady. I mean, she'll just as soon be in here in the shop working with us as much as whipping up a pot of chili for everybody who is. You know, it's awesome to have somebody that supports you that way.
Because you went, I can't believe my wife would never go, hey, we should go back.
Yeah.
My wife would have left me keep walking, and she would have already made the deal with the guy. That's just who she is. She wouldn't have asked me anything.
Yeah, so we ended up taking it out of there, and it's been sitting like in my stuff for 10 years. I've been waiting for the opportunity to build this bike. So just like Brian, who, you know, a lot of people are going to be surprised with what you build. You're going to come out of left field with this, and I sort of am too, because I know everybody, as soon as they hear I'm involved in this, they're thinking 9-foot chopper, it's going to be this thin. But what I'm actually going to go after is a post-war gentleman's cut down. So what young guys were doing.
Hold on. Wait. You got to be a gentleman to ride a gentleman's cut down.
I'm going to work on that part. I'm actually involved in some elocution lessons right now.
Elocution? Is that a word?
It sounds good.
It didn't sound as eloquent. Elocution.
Elocution.
All right. Good luck with elocution.
But I'm going to go after like what the roots of custom are, and this is going to be a great journey for me for this. That's why I'm excited about this, because a lot of the stuff that we think about today, the flat strap trailer fender, the bobtail rear fender,
where'd it come from?
Yeah, this is where it came from. When those guys came back from the war, they were taking front fenders and spinning them around backwards and changing the radius and all the stuff they started doing that we as the custom motorcycle industry today, those have become standards for us. So we're actually going to go through a bunch of that. We're going to do several different fenders as we go through this process, just to show like what the evolution of that was. It'll be a lot of fun.
Well, we're going to have complete opposite bikes, okay? Because while you're probably trying to keep it cast or even more cast than it already is cast, I'm going to take this bad boy right here out of the plastic. We're going to rip it down. It's a cast motor. Look at this. It's a brand new cast motor. Look at this thing. Okay? It's perfect, right? Why would you take it apart? To honor you, my dad. To honor you. I will take it apart. And what we're going to do is we're going to send this to Steve at Elite Polishing. We're going to fully polish this whole thing, okay? I'm getting the folks at Baker make a 6 and a 4 with a kicker and electric start. So all my team can ride this thing without breaking your knee, without doing anything. Or if you want to break your knee, I'm in, right? But it's a 93-inch, fully polished motor, fully polished 6 and a 4. And the drum roll, please, ladies and gentlemen. I just talked Burt Baker out of a tin type primary.
I can't even believe that. Can't even believe you got so lucky with that, because That was one of the coolest. I still don't understand how come they don't make them
Because
anymore.
it's expensive and people didn't get it.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Bert and a lot of guys in our industry. They may be 10 years, a decade ahead of where everyone else is at,
Yeah.
right? So now here we are building this legacy motor for S&S in this series, and I love it, right? And to be able to use that tin type primary, so yours will have a real one probably, and it'll be the gentleman's cut down perfect version. I'll have the hot rod other kid version that's going to be all fully polished. So it's going to match fully polished motor, fully polished transmission.
Are you fully polishing that too?
This thing is going to be show bike, baby.
So what he's
Bling,
talking about,
bling, bling. That's the only part of this that will make my dad happy, is that there's plenty of bling.
Bert took that original tin primaries that Panheads would have, and they made one out of a block of billet aluminum. They CNC machined it, and it looks exactly like a tin primary, but it's real beefy and sturdy, and you know, it's
Bert Baker built. Yeah, and thing is, it had a little damage on it. Bert called me, goes, "This is the only one I got. What do you want me to do?" And I said, "We'll fix it.
Box it up.
Bring it." Like, I'm so excited. And you know, Bert started in 1997, the same year I did. And so we were at Cincinnati at the V-Twin Expo together. And I'll never forget Danny Gray walking up to me and saying, "Hey, Brian, Dave Perowitz wants to ask you about that guy you were saying has a 6-speed. David goes, "Yeah, Brian, introduce me to that guy." So I introduced Dave Perowitz to Bert Baker, the moneymaker.
Dude.
How lucky is that?
Bert
1997.
Bert effing Baker.
Yeah.
This is too pretty to keep covered up here. We gotta
Well,
look
hey,
inside.
go play in your own box.
No, we gotta look
Go
in
your
here.
own side. Go
Look
on your
at
own
that.
side.
Look at that
Chris,
stuff.
Get out of here. Go. Don't get your
All right, so
grubby
a couple
hands
things.
on my motor.
Couple things that I'm doing because we want this, and I'm going to go through the extra effort, but because we want this to be a true like post-war cut down, some of the stuff we have to do is unchop it. So lucky enough that John from Hardtail Choppers, and thank you so much, John, immediately acted to a call that I had to get fresh necks for both these frames. So we're starting with
Oh, so
fresh
now you touch my
castings.
greasy motor with your greasy hands, and now you're going to be nice to me.
Well, I was being nice to you before. It just
Elocution.
elocution.
Go for it, gentlemen. Cut down. Let's do this. Yeah.
We're gonna cut
gentlemen.
all of this mess out of here and then put the stock neck casting back on. We're actually even gonna come down here. I got a nice set from Competition Distributing. Thanks Tom Banks and Sean.
Ooh.
We're gonna put the sidecar loops back on. Even though I'm not using sidecar, we're gonna go with the
Spreader
stabilizer
bar.
bar. Yep. Get that all back to how it would have been stock, so we
That's
can
cool.
start to talk about
That's
the
really
origin
cool.
of custom by going back to the beginning.
What's this guy?
This is fantastic. So Kiwi Mike hooked me up with this years ago too. I bet you 7 years. Anyway, 7, 8 years ago. This is an actual period Springer front end. What I ended up finding out about this, it's a little earlier than what my 49 Panhead would have been, because that's what I'm actually going after here. Is this is a
So you want to run a Springer?
I do. Even though there was only 1 year of Panhead, technically year and a half, because in 49 when they went to the or the Hydroglide, there were still some holdouts that were Springer. But what I found out about this one is it's an inline, so this is actually a knucklehead Springer. So there's a tough question there. Like, do
That
we
just
keep
paid
it
your
or-
bill.
I know, right?
So you just tell your wife, say, "I got a part of a knucklehead. We need to start working on the rest of it." That's what I tell her. You
But-
can use your elocution, whatever,
Elocution.
all that. You can use your mannerisms even.
So we're gonna
Throw some mannerisms in there.
We're gonna have a Springer. It's gonna be hardtail. I am going with the old-fashioned drum braking and like all the
Nice.
star hub wheels. and
Yeah,
all that
very
stuff.
cool. So along this process, to be fair, when I started, I said, people are sick, people couldn't be here, all these things. Shelton is right now behind the camera, running the camera.
You know, the thing about Shelton is he's probably one of the most underestimated guys in the whole crew. And even though he's not necessarily on my team in this whole build, you know, the clock team and the grease and gears team, I got to give him a shout out, man, because Shelton is the Mike Singletary. Anybody that remembers Mike Singletary back in the day of the Chicago Bears, he was the free safety that like you know, he was on it. If it was a run play, he was on it. If it was a short pass, he was on it. Like, that's the guy. You know, Shelton is, no matter who's doing what and somebody needs a hand, if it's someone with fabricating it, someone with welding, it's finding a part, if it's sourcing something, Shelton always has the answer. So no matter what we say about teams, Shelton is going to be that special teams player that comes in the clutch. And man, you can't beat a guy like that.
Shelton will be involved. Ryan will be involved. He's got his son at the hospital today. Danny will be involved. She's on vacation. Aaron Maxwell's over here running the forklift. He wants in.
Aaron's on my team. Let's talk about that right off the bat. So,
now you're picking teams?
Well, everything at Clockworks
Is it
happens with a team.
dodgeball?
Oh, it's kind of like dodgeball. Everything at Clockworks happens in a team.
It does.
I've learned that since I got here.
Oh, yeah. Go back and watch the old Discovery Channel thing.
I
You'll
love
see.
it. I love it. I love that you guys do it like that. But since we've been talking about this project, I've been watching guys and how they work and what they bring to the table. I got my team picked out, man.
Okay, so all that to say, Aaron's coming off the sidelines. He's going to be involved. Ian in sales wants to be involved.
I'm taking Ian too.
Okay. I mean, Chris is probably going to bring Heather in here at some point because she's the better looking side of his whole life. Vanessa's the better looking side of my whole life. This thing's going to be fun. We are excited to do this. Thank you to everybody at S&S. I cannot tell you thanks enough. Please just stay tuned. Continue to watch the episodes as this thing unfolds. It starts here. It starts in a little bit.
Right now.
Okay. Then let's touch your motor.
I'm afraid to open it up.
You have been wanting to cut this thing out of there.
I have.
It's like Chris is like a kid at Christmas and only worse, okay? These things come in and I have this problem. Our UPS comes in, everybody's like, cuts open, hey, this is for Brian.
He's the worst,
Well,
dude.
my name must be Brian, so let's just look at it.
He'll actually leave his stuff sit there for a year.
Yeah. Unbelievable patience I have, okay? I have a long-term vision for where I want to go. You see his side of the room already getting messy. Things are fucking falling on the floor. Look at, he couldn't even wait to chop this thing open. Look at this.
So
that is beautiful.
It is. Here's
the wave. Oh, you want to look here? Okay.
Here's the deal, and I'm not sure. I have to look at this when we get it out. Like what a lot of the vintage guys talk about with these with S&S's vintage motors is that they actually look too perfect. So we might actually take this thing. We might actually take the top end apart. I might do the cylinders in black, which would have been, you know, kind of traditional, and I might actually take the cases and scale them so that they look a little more imperfect, because you have to think about in the period, like this would have been, you know, total sand casting, like, you know, a lot of imperfections, a lot of scuffs and bumps through the whole process of manufacturing. Dude, it's so badass. And you get the benefit, like you get all the Panhead cool, but all the benefit of the technology that's going to make this just a runner. Yeah. What's the cubic inches on this?
93.
Oh, that's insane.
It's going to be so fun.
And who's our other guys? We didn't talk about that.
Who?
We got in the shovelhead side of things, A1 Mike in Florida, Mike Beelan. We got Xavier at Providence in Texas.
So does A1 Mike know how to do anything under 8,000 RPM?
Dude, I can't wait to see that though. Can you imagine?
He's going to build a shovel head with its neck ripped off.
He was
that thing would come out of his trailer squirting blood like a chicken, and he's going to go, wah!
It's so funny. It's so funny watching some of these guys though, how they get fussy about dealing with old dirty stuff. Like he was sending messages back. There's a message thread for all the builders, and he was like, look at this shit, dog. I gotta take all this off of here, and it's all crusty. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and you love it. Sick bastard.
That's how it's supposed to be.
And Xavier
from Providence, out of Texas. Those are our shovelhead guys. And then the knuckleheads, which it makes sense right off the bat. Kevin Bass, like, of course. He's almost Mr. Knucklehead, right? Yeah. So that makes total sense. But Chip and Mikey from San Diego Customs?
Yeah, just wait. Okay, so here's the deal. I don't know if people know this or not, but there's a CNC machine San Diego Customs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why when you see those guys building performance baggers and building what was the prelude to the Pan America, but they built it out of a M8 Softail, and the thing looked like it was on steroids, ready to go to the Baja 1000.
Yeah.
Like that, there's a couple twisted brains there. Mike and Chippy are not all right. Like they're goofy, okay? And so they don't care if it's a knucklehead.
Yeah.
It might come out of there with a fire-breathing, supercharged, turbocharged, who knows? And that thing, you know, it might be in a dirt bike frame by the time they're done with it.
You know what's funny about that too?
I love those guys.
I don't know if people realize this or not, but the S&S knucklehead, those are all the internal parts of the knucklehead are completely interchangeable. You know what I mean? So it is an honest to God knucklehead. Like you can take pistons out of it and put it in a knucklehead.
Real one.
Yeah. So like for them to do
it's pretty incredible what they've done with this whole, you know, vintage series.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, like people are still resurrecting bikes, they're still bringing bikes back to life, they're still caring for bikes, right? And S&S is an integral part of that.
Absolutely.
Because they're just trying to keep it going. They're making it fun.
It's funny. My boy Roadside was just at the guy's house that used to own Flathead Power, Scott.
Oh, wow.
And that's where all this came from.
Yeah.
You know, and Roadside bought a bunch of his
Yeah.
stuff off to tell you about, but that was where all this came from. And I can remember when that deal was first going down. And
Yeah.
S&S
Everybody's
was
like, no
just-
way, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And boy, they've really taken it a long way.
Well, you think about the technology they're putting into things like the new Indian, you know, King of the Baggers race series, and the motors that they built, and how incredible that's done. How incredible they did when they took over Indian's flat track motor program. And so it only makes sense that, you know, they're doing vintage motors as good as anybody's ever done vintage motors, and they care because it's where their heart and soul came from.
Well, and for me, I mean, I've long been against the whole purist idea of, you know, some of these guys they'd rather, you know, cobble together all that old stuff. If you have the opportunity for this, like the rideability alone, the fact that you're going to be able to put that, if you put that motor in a bike like this, put a Baker transmission behind it.
Well, and motorcycles have long been kind of just a few steps behind the hot rod scene, right? And right now, the cars that are bringing the most money, the stuff that are bringing the cash, are resto mods, right? You're putting a Elephant motor in an original CUDA,
Yeah.
putting some brand new whiz-bang automatic overdrive transmission in there, some killer wheels, killer brakes, killer suspension. So basically you save the CUDA sheet metal
Yeah.
to make it feel like a CUDA, right? So this is going to be fun because I'm just building a hot rod that my dad would never have built. You're building a gentleman's cut down, and they're both going to have 93-inch power plants, more than anybody really deserves. And it's going to be super fun.
And if I could go back to me and you 30 years ago and explain us standing here today, building bikes for the largest, longest performance manufacturer in the motorcycle industry.
And we were just two broke kids with a dream that just traveled all over the country with every penny we had to try to make this thing happen.
Yep.
And so the fact that we've survived it 27 years almost now is a treat. And thank you to S&S for this opportunity to yet further our relationship and our opportunities and our creative brains. It's
I
going to be
didn't
fun.
say anything about the addiction.
I thought you said you were recovered.
I've recovered everything but motorcycles.
Okay, you're still an addict.
S&S is an enabler. That's all I'm saying. So here's the other part. Along with having teams, and we pick our teams, from this point on,
Okay.
it's two sides of the room.
All right. I'm feeling some sense of divisional here. That's why he's going to have trouble with this gentleman cut down thing. He's not much of a gentleman.
I'm a total gentleman.
His mom never taught him sharing's caring.
Gotta be some surprises.